see everyone's rolling in. I guess it means, should I say one thing, interesting thing? It's unrelated. No, everyone's here now, so now I already said it. So, Mamish, interesting thing. Today, somebody, there's a certain yeshiva I give, once in a while I give a hair. I'm not so good at giving hair. It's not my thing. So once in a while I do it. I give hair. So there's a bacher who came. He's checking out the yeshiva. So they asked me if I hair him. So I gave him a hair. I asked him one question. They answered it. I asked another question, and it was a little bit harder. And, but he answered it. He answered it not bad. I asked him the third question, and maybe it was harder. I guess that's how you do it in a fair. I'm not so good at this. That's why they don't ask me to give fairs. They had no choice. Other Rabbi weren't around. So I asked him a third question. It was a harder question. So he said to me like this. He says to me, Rabbi, maybe you can tell me the answer. I don't know. He said, do you know the answer? He didn't say disrespect. He said, Rabbi, maybe you can tell me the answer. I told him it's a fair. What do you mean it's a fair? What do you mean? That's the whole point of the fair. He says, no, this talking mamish a good question. Just tell me you heard one of these stories about like tzaddikim and gedolim that like and then he figured if he asks me, you tell me the answer, I'll see he has a pikush of Torah and something like that, whatever. It didn't work. I go, no. I go, I'm asking you a question because I want to see your ability to answer the question. Right? Okay, that was that. If you'll get in or not, it's a different shot, right? But Maisa, I tell you, when I was driving home, I was thinking to myself, everybody talks in these days. There were terrible tzaris before Baruch Hashem, after the Kallus of Torah, the Midas Adin has gone down, and Hashem should help us. Maisa is a lot of Midas Rachamim now, But Maisa, now that you're after that Midas Adin, so now you can ask like a question. In the end of the day, why is the Halachos of Bishul do this and why this? So now you know the answer. Mamish Pashit. What's everything in life? Every situation that happens to every person. What is it? It's an assignment. It's a fair. And how are you going to react in this situation? Sometimes it's on a more personal level, sometimes a bit broader, sometimes more klali, and etc. So every situation that Kosh Baruch Hu puts you in. So what's he doing there? He says, okay, so you get to one situation, and okay, that I know the answer to that. Okay, I why, Sometimes the person says, I know why that happened to me. I did this and this, and then this, and then this. And then he gets to one question, he says, Taka Mamish, hey, look at Shefer, hey, Rebbe, it's such a good question. Maybe you can tell me the answer. He says, what are you doing? This is a fair. It's a fair. What do you mean I should tell you the answer? It's a fair. Don't you want to get into the yeshiva? It means like the yeshiva shalmaila. Don't you want to have a high place in Gan Eden one day? No, what do you think? I was wondering why in the world I had to give the fair today. Now I understand why. That's unrelated, but now everybody's here, so I can start the share. Start. That's not good idea. He was like, huh? I told you the story like that. All right. Today's a very big day. Today's a big day. Today we're going to learn about chashmal. This is really of the top 5 biggest sugyas in all of Hilchos Shabbos. It's definitely a biggie. That's for sure. And it's because we learned the whole sugya of Rafui and Takeya and the Chazanish and Mishlam Zalman and Kisa Kalim and everything. You have a real very shame appreciation for the sugya. So let's do it today. Let me try and get out a lot of the zachin that many of the svaras that we're going to talk about here you've heard, and now we're going to put it in the Maisa into electricity. Is electricity mutter on Shabbos? Is it also on Shabbos? Is it deraisa, etc.? I started yesterday the Divrei Akdama. Let me just reiterate because I looked into it today to make sure I wasn't wrong, and I see that it's really 100% right. It's very accurate. There's a big machlekes. The names are going to be officially Mishlam Zaman and the Chazanish. Unofficially, there's a lot of teammates, right? But those are the major players in this shiloh here. Is electricity deraisa, or is it purely moilid, noilid of sorts? And the nafkamina is very, very strong because not just if it's deraisa, derabanan, but if it's baina, so then there's an opposite to malacha baina, the seiser. So the Chazanish is right, then turning off electricity is going to be seiser. And if we'll call it the Beis Yitzchak is right, then when you make electricity on Shabbos, what do you over on? Moilid. So then what's the opposite of moilid? There is no opposite of moilid. And therefore it'll come out to turn off electricity. It'll be mutter. If something is derabanan, there's a lot more leeway by mir la'akum. There's a lot more leeway by chaylim, etc. So it's like the biggest shilas, the biggest shilas. I mean, it's not enough to come along. Some people have ashkafa. They see electricity. I know this thing is aser. Just tell me why, right? You know, it's not enough to do it like that because you need to know is it rabbanan. You need to know if it's the raisa. You need to know which malacha Bain has its Kallus, Seiser has its dinim, etc., etc. So that's number one. Number two is, as I said yesterday, this is very important. I said that they come along and they say that the Chazon Ish, the raya against the Chazon Ish. I saw one of the famous Tshuva writers. He writes, the raya against the Chazon Ish is everybody said not like the Chazon Ish because nobody dreamed of the Sad and Bain and Seiser. If you say that, you can shoot you really don't know the Metzias. You don't know the Metzias. If you say such things, you really don't know what the Metzias is because it's not true. And the Tshuva writers, what were the Tshuva writers? 50 years before the Chazon Ish, that whole entire Tkufa before the Chazon Ish. So, like I said, 30 years people were running away, no one was writing Tshuvas. Before that, nobody knew the actual Metzias. You see, Klar there, Chashulchan said something which was clearly not right in the Metzias. Lay there. I think we're getting hacked. Tell call Danny. No, something's going on over there. There's some bullshit. Yeah, something's going on over there. No. But that picture is usually not here. Right? And there's a reason why not. Yeah, we're getting hacked. So I'll have to. Wow, they know about electricity. No. It's not before 100%. There were 4 pictures already, different pictures. This is something's going on over here. What? I feel like I'm in a science fiction. I should shut it off? Okay, I'm going to shut it off. All the guys on Zoom, something's going on over here. I'm going to shut it off. No, I see you guys, I know, but I also see that character over there. It looks like we're being hacked over here. So you get what I'm saying? I just shut it off? I should shut it off. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to shut it off. If you want, you could reattach. Well, no, but there's a few people here like that. There's this one. Tell Mrs. Emily is. Tell Danny. I feel like I'm in a science fiction. What? The second we kick you off, you should only know how good the stuff I'm going to say is. Really, what? I have to send a new link. What? Now we have a problem. That means. Here's Dan. Such bittul Torah. But they so badly want to hear the sheet of the Chazon Ish and Chashmal. Did we knock them all off? Ask Danny if they're all knocked off. I think they're all knocked off. Are they all knocked off or not? No one would believe this. Now you see who I am, Rabbi Isaac. You knocked them all off? No, but he knocked all the bad guys off or no? This is my chance to get rid of Micha and Shirley and all these guys, huh? I was always worried about them. All right, let's start over. Get that Tully guy out. Who's this Tully guy? Danny, are we okay? I can go back to Danny's not reacting. Okay. A component. So the Maisa, anybody who says that, I guess they're upset because those 50 years of the Metzias, those 50 years, to say anything about how in those 50 years people did not know what was going on in electricity. You see the Aruch HaShulchan at Tzad to say you can turn on electricity on Yontif, and it's clearly based on a lack of understanding of the Metzias, which he writes himself. He writes that I was told such and such Metzias, this Metzias, you can turn a switch on Yontif, which of course you can't do because it's being moiled in H Chadash, it's being moiled in current, which you certainly can't do. And you're going to watch, right? I'm not going to look. A component That's not a tiny number one. Number two is just a little history over here. The Levushin Mordechai, he was one of the great Hungarian Tshuva writers. In Orchaim Chafei, this is before the Chazon Ish, Rabbi said. He writes that maybe it's Baina, maybe it's Maket Patish. He writes like the Chazon Ish. It's not like nobody came along with this tzad, and the Chazon Ish was the first one to be Machadish this tzad. It's no such thing. It's not true. It's not true. It's fake news. It's no such thing. No such thing. Right? Ramosha, Milanu Gadol Mir Ramosha. Ramosha has three chuvas about it. Ramosha, every time he says electricity is like borrow with the Yitzhar, maybe Baina, maybe Maket Patish. Ramosha already says it. Sorry? I'm just saying, but even the ones that came, he was saying before and after this Tshuva Sefer writes that every Sefer before the Chazon Ish and everyone afterward either argue on the Chazon Ish or they never even fathomed the Tzad. That's totally a fallacy. It's totally not correct. People did fathom the Tzad, and it is a Mechudesh to Tzad. I'm going to talk about it today. But everybody agrees there is such a Tzad of Boina, of Seiser, of Makkah Patish, etc., etc. And therefore, we do have to reckon with it with the proper respect. Even if the truth is, even if it would be just a Chazon Ish, you'd have to give it the proper respect. Because the truth is, if you take Chazon Ish and you put it against all the Gedolim of all the door of the whole entire 100 years, it's not too many that can really stand on that level. There's not too many. I don't know if anybody can stand level with the Chazon Ish, And then I don't know, it doesn't work like that entirely. You could take somebody who's this big and you put like 1,000 this big. So I got everybody here is big, but the mice of the Chazon Ish was the Chazon Ish. The absolute biggest. So like that those things don't work. In halacha, that's not a way to pass in halacha b'chlal. That's nicht. That's so what is l'maisa? What is l'maisa? So I said yesterday they started out, the Beis Yitzchak came along and said it's noilid. Okay. And the Chaim Moses said it's noilid. Our Shlomo Zalman at the end of his tshuva, he says kvar hoyris zaken, even though I would have said it's mutter gomer. That's how he kifyachol goes. But l'maisa, they said it's noilid. So kvar hoyris zaken, at least it's noilid. So you can't turn on electricity again, like I said yesterday. When we talk electricity today, I'm not discussing turning on a incandescent light, which heats up a bulb to 4,000 degrees. That's a shaila of a mavir anyways. Everyone agrees that would be havara. I'm talking about just the current, which goes to something like a fan or something like an air conditioning. The truth is, yesterday I mentioned fluorescent. You should know fluorescent is a big tzad. Fluorescent is deraisa also. What do I mean? Not fluorescence is just a gas. How can fluorescent be a deraisa? The way that fluorescent can be a deraisa is because the fluorescent has a spark, and that spark itself, in order to create that spark, it's a not secretion, it's not a nicha, it's a maskabin. You need that spark in order to affect the gas, in order to cause the gas to spread, etc. So fluorescent is also probably turning on a fluorescent lights to rise. LED lights are probably not to rise. If you would hold electricity is not to rise, so then LED lights would be in the same category as a shaila of an air conditioning, a fan, etc. That's the starting point. That's what we saw yesterday. Now let's see what by Rosh Zalman, this was very serious because Rosh Zalman had told his mother, it seems to be for quite some time, that she could be turning on and off her hearing aid. So Shlomo Zalman writes to the Chazon Ish. The letters are found back and forth, either in Shlomo, there's different places that bring down the letters. I think Rabbi Yitzchak brought the letters also. We have the letters. Shlomo writes to the Chazon Ish. It seems to be that can see what you're saying. Now that I see your wonderful sefer, the Chazon Ish, I see that you're saying that for years I was telling my mother to turn on the hearing aid and turn it off, and you're telling me I was telling her to Raisa. I'm telling you I was telling her to Raisa. How can it be? And Chazon Ish, yes. Not so pleasing, right? So that's where the starting point was. This is the starting point, and like I said, you can find the letters in Yud Zayin, in Chav Hey, in Mincha Shleima. It's not an interesting story, very interesting story. So somebody told me once that the Chazon Ish and Shlomo Zalman, they had this big machlek. Like we're seeing over here. Shlomo Zalman used to come into yeshiva in Kol Torah. He used to talk to Bachram about this shaita, the shaita. This is going back 60 years ago, 65 years ago, even more, close to 70 years ago. And they would talk about it in the yeshiva. So Shlomo Zalman would come in, he says, the Chazon Ish says like this, and I say like this. The Chazon Ish says like this, and I would think like this, Okay, then one Sunday, the Chazon Ish comes to yeshiva, and the Chazon Ish tells the Bachrim that the Maisa, they have to be machmir and consider electricity to be deraisa. You have to be machmir. And the truth is, in the tshuva, you see, after the dust settles, which Shlomo Zalman himself says, that you do have to be machmir to consider electricity deraisa like the Chazon Ish. We'll see. In some cases, we might be able to say that it might be Drabanan, but Rosh Zalman himself said it. Where did it come from that Rosh Zalman said this? So this is the story they say. They say that Rosh Zalman, he went to Bnei Brak about something else. He went for some other reason. And then when he was there, he talked to the Chazon Ish. Because they had letters back and forth. So he felt he wasn't getting, like you see a lot of the tshuvas over here that the Chazon Ish is writing. There's Shalom Zalman says like this, the Chazon Ish answers this, the Shalom Zalman answers back. Like, they're not mamish, there's something going on over here. Okay, there are chalakim where they have a different havana, but there were certain things, we'll see in a moment, that Shalom Zalman, I think the nusach was Shalom Zalman said to the Chazon Ish to say such a thing, maybe you have to be like a Tano to say such a thing, right? So the Chazon Ish told him, this is what the Chazon Ish told him, on a certain kash, he says, on this I don't have a raya. On this thing I don't have a raya. But he said, but my das Torah tells me as it. That's what Chazon Ish told Shlomo Zalman. So Shlomo Zalman said, so you have to be machmir. He has to Shlomo Zalman. When he had rayas, no. So then you have to ask, he answers. If he tells you my das Torah is like this, so that means he's agreeing that he doesn't have a raya to what he's saying. So Shlomo Zalman said like this. Shlomo Zalman said, until now, you'd be fighting with rayas. So the Chazon Ish learned the Gemara like this. I can learn the Gemara like that. He learned the Rishonim like this. I can learn like that. He said, but now the Chazon Ish said, my das Torah says it. What does that mean? That means, what's the das Torah of the Chazon Ish? That means, kol ha-Torah kula. The Chazon Ish knows kol ha-Torah kula. It means, kol ha-Torah kula says, this is a svar. I can't fight with that. How can I fight with that? If kol ha-Torah kula says, this is a svara, so then that's a svar of Torah. And if I don't understand that, it means that I have to be miyasher my seichel to the seichel of Torah. And that was the bittul of the Shlomo Zalman. Imagine a person who's 24 years old, who's capable of writing a 3-volume sefer on Ma'ora Eish, which is what was the classic work on electricity from now on forever, and he's able to say, somebody knows better than me. You know, by us, every time we see any svar in the sefer that we don't like, we're like, no, that doesn't make sense. And mevatel it and right? It doesn't work like that. A person has to realize sometimes when a person as big as, you see the names we're discussing here, the Chazon Ish, Moshe, you see sometimes as far as that big, people that big, so you have to know. Sometimes das Torah tells me, das Torah tells me. Okay, that's the Maisa. That's the Maisa. Okay, so where do we go from here? Let's go. We have to try and help Shlomo Zalman. His mother's hearing aid and us. Where do we go from up here? So I'll start like this. I'll start with the svaras that we've discussed in this room, which are the basic ikar of where the Chazon Ish comes from. The Olam saw, I think, the Chazon Ish in Simenun Tzivtaz. The Chazon Ish basically said, now, I'm telling you straight, there are words in the Chazon Ish which it's just hard to know what was the Metzias, where he was telling the binyan. Where he was telling the binyan. I'll tell you what I think. There are some that say a little bit differently than me. One of them is true, I'll tell you, maybe both. The Chazon Ish writes words that you're connecting chutim. It's a little bit hard to understand what the Chazon Ish means. What does he mean? Did anybody understand what it means? You're connecting chutim, not connecting wires. What does he mean, Bichlal? And through the zerem. What does he mean? Sorry? It means you're closing a circuit, but what's the binyan? The binyan is on what? He says the chutim, right? I tell you how I understand it. It could be I'm wrong. I don't think it makes so much of enough kamina. There's a little bit different way I saw in some achrayim how they explain the Chazon Ish. It doesn't make so much of enough kamina. I won't tell at this thing as much. But the Chazon Ish says what you're doing is when you're making electricity, electric current, when you're turning it on the switch, turning off the switch, is you're making a binyan of the chutim. Now, what is it? The chayurity means is right now there's a wire. It's attached to a source of electricity, and you're enabling the electricity to flow through. Now, if you look in the Chazon Ish, it sounds like that connection of the zerem, of the chashmal, of the current, the flow of the electricity, to allow it to come through, is kivyachol connecting. That's what it sounds like in the Chazon Ish. The wire and the wall, or the wire and the place in the wall. It sounds like in the Chazon Ish. That's one nash sounding like in the Chazon Ish. Another time the Chazon Ish sounds a little different. It sounds like current in the wire. Is you're binding the current to the wire. That's what it sounds like. If you were binding the zerem, the electric flow to the wire, you take this wire and you didn't just, now it's no longer just a wire, it's a wire that has an electric current in it. It's connected to the wire. I'll be the first to admit, this part is not clear. Everything what we're going to talk about is this Nakuda, but it's not so much of enough kamina. You see that they were writing that when they landed on the Chazon Ish, they landed the first one, and sometimes the second one, it didn't seem to bother them. So let's assume that that's not such enough kamina. Somehow there's a connection here of the chut. He calls it the chutim. That's the part I can't fully understand. He calls it the chutim. I guess he means it sounds maybe like the zerem and the chut together, the oneness of that. That it's not just a wire; it's a live wire. We call it. So you connected the electricity to the wire. You gave the electricity a place to be mechaber itself. Or that now you connected the wire to the wall, and now the current connects. Kaviyachol, it connects it. It's now not considered just two things that are separate. There's a current that's going through, so this becomes a oneness. That's what the Chazon Ish seems to say. Now the only question is, the obvious kasha of the Chazon Ish is it's roughly whatever is going on over here. I mean, hard to understand what the bain is, right? But whatever the bain is, it certainly is roughly. It's a connection that all you have to do is pull the plug. You have to just press the switch. There's no gvura, there's no there's no hiddik, there's no tekiya, there's no. Sorry, come again. Oh, elamai. Maybe you'll say karka, but the truth is that it has to be when we're dealing with a kli. The truth is, it's interesting. The Chazon Ish doesn't say karka. It's interesting. It's interesting why he doesn't say karka over here. Either he means so first of all, you have to know that the hearing gate is not karka, and many of the cases aren't karka. But he's asking, what about the cases which are karka? Right? Why in those cases? And Rosh Hashanah doesn't seem to be bothered karka. Nobody seems to say roughly the karka. I must tell you, it's also a big question, which is what leads me to believe that it's not true what I said, and it's not the chut, which is connected to the wall, which is what I originally understood the Chazon Ish saying, and that it's the other way I was saying, which I see a lot of truth that's wrong understood, that it's the zerem which is actually going through the wire. Therefore, the roughly connection is between the zerem, when I say zerem, I mean the current, the electric current and the wire. So, in order to answer your question, let's just learn like that, but it's not a bar thing. So, the obvious question, though, is that why isn't it roughly, though? Sorry? I think it's Kedai at this point. Let me say first what the Kohanim say. Let's say first what the Chazon Ish is before we have kashas on Bishul Zam and the Chazon Ish. Let's understand what they're saying. It's one of these sugyas, Rabbi say, you have to just get what you can get. There's certain sugyas that are extremely complicated in Bein of the Mitzias, Bein of the connection to the halacha. Let's try to get what they get. We're obviously not going to become today electricians, and we're certainly not going to become the world's experts in Shmeras Shabbos and how to fix fridges and whatever. So let's just get as far as they shouldn't be Gevenish Gevenam Haaretz. That a person should know what the actual sugyah is about when he talks about electricity and Shabbos. So the Chazon Ish, he says this nosech. He asks, so why is it not roughly? And as I go along, this is usually going to be the question that Rosh Hashanah asked in the Chazon Ish, and what he's answering. So why isn't it roughly? That's the first question. You say whatever you want, but the second I pull the plug or I turn off the switch, the connection is over. Whatever that connection is, that's obviously not such a strong connection. Let's hold on. Everyone's going to hold on the questions just for a few moments, right? Especially because the poor Arabs, they want to come back on the Shiur. So it's like this. The Chazon Ish says here chiddush, which it's unbelievable chiddush. Could be this. I have a lot of stakes. Which was the chiddush that the Chazon Ish said on this? It's my das Torah, right? I think on every one of them, you need that the das Torah the Chazon Ish to say it. This one for sure. It's such an interesting Einfeld kick, a different look into it, right? It's like a whole different cook into the world of roughly. Chazon Ish said roughly the kalim is not exeris kosef. It's not exeris kosef. Now, the Chazon Ish doesn't even say what I'm saying, and I'm going to add to the Chazon Ish to explain it. Hooray by karka, you see that roughly is aser. Roughly by karka creates a chibur when you have a roughly karka. So then that creates a chibur, which is enough to have a oneness to it. And that was in last week's parsha, right? The binyan of the Mishkan. So you see, roughly could be a binyan. It's not exeris kosef that roughly can't be a binyan. Roughly can sign a binyan. Roughly could also be a binyan. So why is it that we see something kalim roughly is not a binyan? So the way we learned in this room until now is very simply that roughly b'karka, that itself has a oneness to it. There's a oneness to any time you have a shelf, even if you just place it on the shank, so that already has a oneness. Kalim don't get a oneness when they're made of parts. The only time they get a oneness is if it's so much together that I need gvura and umness to take it apart. Then that's a oneness. The oneness, because a kli is something that the oneness is only seen when you have that mamish oneness that we take a chibur of umness to take apart to put together. The Chazon Ish is not like that. The Chazon Ish says roughly depends if it's chashiv or not. Canary is learning that by karka a roughly binyan is chashiv, and by kalim it's not chashiv. You have to know why. Maybe the husband is like I'm saying, but he says. But let's say you'll have a keli that the binyan of the roughly is chashiv. You found the moifis. You found something that it's a roughly connection. The connection is roughly, but it's very chashiv. So he says, no, as I decide that roughly will be chayiv. The only reason why roughly is not chayiv, it's not a xeris of kosev. Roughly is not a binyan. I thought that until now, roughly is not binyan. The definition of binyan is something that is tightly connected in one, at least by kalim. The Chazon Ish is not like that. He says roughly. Of course, it can be a binyan. is that the roughly generally is not important. So the binyan that you created over here is not a binyan chashiv. Let's say I have a roughly which is so chashiv, explains the Chazon Ish. This wire until now was a dead wire. It took garnished. It doesn't do anything. Now with this wire, you can make worlds, you can destroy worlds, you can do everything with this wire, right? With this wire now, you can do things with this wire. You can imagine what this room looks like if there wouldn't be an air conditioning, right? And imagine what it would look like if there wasn't two, right? It would be a whole different room. It wouldn't be a base mattress in this room, right? Because no one would come. Right? I wouldn't come. Right? It would be so look what you can do with an air conditioning. So he says that chipper of the zerim to the wire is very chashiv. It's such a chashivist that it takes something and turns it alive. Chiddush the Chazon Ish. It's not meaning that's Torah. The Chazon Ish to say such a thing, but that's the first thing he says. So he says, so therefore, roughly, is chayiv. Next, comes again. Okay, so by the way, Shalom Zalman doesn't like that. He says, like I said, you can't time to say such a thing. Roughly is not a chipper. Okay. No, that maybe was where Shalom Zalman gave in. You have to be a das Torah. Okay, whatever. It's time I have a kasha. How far do you take this, right? You have the wheel on the carriage. Very hard to understand this. You have to have a lot of emunas chachamim. You have the wheel on the carriage. Until now, you have a carriage. Imagine trying to roll a carriage on the floor without wheels. What would happen? Why are you laughing? You know what it would look like. It would be terrible. You'd hear scrape, right? It would be terrible. Scrape, right? Kid would fall, right? Then you would fall. It would be mamish terrible. Mamish terrible. It would be worse than that story the other day we had with the kid. Remember? Whole story. What? It would be terrible. Imagine you're trying to go. Now you take this wheel, you click it on, and it moves around. So we said yesterday, maybe if it moves around, maybe that's called roughly, right? So now look what you did. You made by all of his mankari. If you can go everywhere with it, it's mamish maritik. You can move it. Why is that not roughly? That's a chashiv roughly. You took this thing, which was a broken item, which was the worst agola in the world, and now you made it into a totally usable item. Why is that? Why is the Chazon Ish not going to say that roughly is a binyan? Anybody know the answer? If you don't know the answer, you don't understand the Chazon Ish, right? If you don't know the answer, you don't understand the Chazon Ish, right? Sorry, my wife showed me today. We have in the house like a coat rack. So that's something borrowed last night. That is similar. A coat rack, just put it together. It's like a piece of metal. You know what I'm talking about? It seems like it rolls around. Oh, we have one here. Oh, look at that. That's a fancy. Fancy people are Amish. Now I'm talking about it like goes into place. Just like it's two parts and it comes into place and then you roll it. This one is one big metal. This is fancy. They made it very sharp, right? This whole. So mine is just like it's a piece that comes off. So I see my wife and she's like, "Hey, what is that? What is this?" Yeah, we had it. I never knew we had it. You take it off. You take it on. I start looking. Could you do it on Shabbos? I look. I put it on. It like sort of moves around. It's not this, It sort of moves around. It has a piece that blocks it from moving, but you wiggle it a little bit. It does. It's probably roughly. It's probably mutter to build on Shabbos. It's probably mutter to build on Shabbos. Until now, what was it? It was a shtick metal. It was a garnished metal. Now what is it? It's the most wonderful thing in the world. It can hang coats and everything. Why is that roughly? Don't have a chashiv. What doesn't it have a chashivas? What's a Chazon Ish mean? There's a roughly that has a chashivas. What? Come again? What do you mean? Go on. That's loose. Why? So I was explaining what Levi's saying is like this. Levi's saying is like this. Yesterday, I said a svara of why a toy is not going to be called a boina. Yeah, Lego together. Kfura, omnis, shayches, even if you do need the strength to take it apart. But nobody sees here something that children play with has that level of chashivas. Nobody sees a level of chashivas over here of a kfura and umnis. A child plays with it. It's a toy. It doesn't have that chashivas of two things coming together and becoming one. Right? So he says, look, you say the opposite. We have a wire that doesn't have a current through it. What is it? It's nothing. It's nothing. That's how the Chazon Ish looked at it right now. It's nothing. It's not pshat that something's in parts. Like you have, like I explained before, you have this coat rack. It's in parts. There's a potential coat rack here. You have parts. Okay. When you have a wire, the zerim of a wire, the current of the wire, it's so integral to the wire. It's so much a part of the wire that it's not something that we look at as two halakim. It's something that gives life to this wire. I don't fully understand what I'm saying. I don't fully understand. What? I don't know if it's bottled to the electric, but it's. Let's go fight. Okay, we'll see every svar. So I don't understand every svar necessarily here. That one might be the das Torah of the Chazon Ish. If that one is the das Torah of the Chazon Ish, I'm not mechuyev to understand it at a saif because it means I don't know kol Torah kula. When you know kol Torah kula, whoever gets there first should tell the other guy. Right? That's number one. Then there's a bigger taina here. So the obvious kasha, this kasha I would have asked. I'm sure this kasha. That what the binyan? This is just a pipe that there's water going through. You have a pipe and there's water going through, and right now, without that pipe and the water going through, Fregnish, what's going to happen over there in the toilet? Right, it's going to be terrible. So that's a very important pipe. Right there he is in the shower, and there's water going through, and all of a sudden, it stops. Right, and you decided today to make sure that you save on the water bill bit, so you lather it up with lots of shampoo, and it's getting higher and higher, and you made like a cherry on top. It's like all the way. And then all of a sudden, where's the water? Right? And the water stops going through. So the pipe without water is a terrible thing. I care more about the pipe with water than, being able to plug in the phone or something like that. So why isn't it just a pipe that's a conduit for electricity to flow through? This is the next chiddush, I guess, of the Chazon Ish. Let's just say it flows through. It doesn't become one with it. So Chazon Ish didn't accept that. Chazon Ish has two svaras on this. One, the Chazon Ish says, you know what? When you have a current that goes through, the current becomes a part of it. It makes something, his lashon is mimavis l'chayim. Chazon Ish at one point says this might be called makir b'patish. At one point, the Chazon Ish says going from dead to alive is not something that you can look at. If you're taking a wire that till now had no benefit, no to'elis, no anything to it, and now you put a zerim of chashmal through it, you gave it the ability to go and create things, so then that's not considered just a conduit of something going through it. That becomes the chefts of the wire. That's what the Chazon Ish says. And therefore you're going mimaves, l'chayim, or michayim l'maves. That's the second chiddush of the Chazon Ish. The next question, in fact, for Shlomo Zalman, he says, wait a minute. Okay, you're right. I accept all this. It's one. It's a boina, it's a makir b'patish, it's both, it's neither, it's something. He says, but wait a minute, but it's kisa kalim. It's kisa kalim. Electricity is meant to be open and closed. It's kisa kalim gadol mitzayis. It's meant to be open and closed. So Chazon Ish says on this already is not my das Torah. This already the Chazon Ish says, no, this is how I learned the sugi of kisa kalim. Well, how did he learn the sugi of kisa kalim? He learned the kisa kalim is like we keep on saying, when I have something and I put it together, and the shimush of it is mechayev a pirak. The shimush of this item is mechayev me to take it apart, like by a bottle. In order for me to use my bottle, I have to take apart the cap and the bottle. So the shimush of this, the shimush of the cap and the bottle together, in order for me to use the cap and the bottle, in order for me to use the bottle, I have to take it apart. So therefore, putting it together, no one's going to see as a poina. He learns that's the heter of kisa kalim. Kisa kalim is the heter, not just the fact that I take it on and off. It's that I must take it on and off in order to use. Says the Chazon Ish, electricity pum fakir pum. I turn it on to use it. Right? I turn it on to use it, and I can leave it like that. It's not mechayev a pirak. I turn on my air conditioning. Some people don't they turn on the air conditioning, they leave it on until they leave it on. Right? I'm saying they just leave it on, right? So you just leave it on and on and on and on and on and on. Right? And so there are some people like that. So you turn it off when you want to save money. He says shkoyach, and I also take apart my nita shel tarsiyim when I want to travel to another place. That's a side benefit. That's not the chefza. That's not the matir of kisa kalim. That's what he says. Shlomo Zalman, he says something that you can hear. I think he's saying even the shita is a Chazon Ish. First of all, it's not so pashit. Maybe something can turn off within every 24 hours. We have that far of the grass. Okay, but second of all, you could say even the shita is a Chazon Ish. Rabbi said, if you would have an electric item that doesn't turn off, the off switch is broken, so then it's a broken clean, right? Because nobody wants nobody wants an air conditioning working the whole time, a fan working. You don't want it to work the whole time. That is called it's broken. That's how Rav Shlomo Zalman looked at it, and that's why you could hear, not pashut. What? No, so geschmack now that you know all the svaras, but what? Well, what? Interesting. Now, let's say like a doorbell. I'll make it more aggressive than you. you press the doorbell, right? So you certainly don't want the doorbell on forever. Sometimes the guy at night, when he rings the bell that says, please don't ring at night, he seems to want it on forever, right? But most people don't want it on forever, right? So he's saying, well, let's see, therefore, such a thing, maybe even he would agree, would be at least the head of Kisakela. And then mutter, but yeah, maybe mutter, whatever. But yeah, I'm saying, but maybe it won't be the rice, maybe it won't be Kisakela, maybe it won't be boina, maybe it'll be Kisakela. I mean, you have a bell, a doorbell. Nobody wants, even the Chazon Ish doesn't want that the doorbell should be on forever. For Karen, the whole function of the bell. No, I'll tell you, shtickle nafkamina. Nafkamina is there you are on Shabbos by mistake, and you accidentally ring the bell. And you're by like your Rebbe's house, the worst pusha, and you accident, and because you just heard a whole shiur about not using the door knocker, you want to show the Rebbe what a grace it's on, and you tell him chacham yar, so you come there and you ring the bell, and your mazel, most people when they ring the bell, they right away just and they just drop their finger. But you there's a shayla. And also, stuff I forgot to say, you have mamish a very big shayla, like, very important shayla, something about your blech that it was necessary to come to the Rav at 1:30 in the morning about, right? So, most people just like give a little, but you remember no door knocker, and then you bell, and then your fingers, they say, oh no, am I allowed to remove my finger? I'm allowed to remove my finger from the door, because the second I remove it, I'm stopping the current. So the Chazon Ish, that's what? That's Soiser, right? And mamish, could you imagine the Rav in the house? They probably think it's one of these Arab hackers that we had over here. This whole, these people that were on the computer before, and you think like, what do I do now? So Maisa, Rabbi Lieberman, if you would call Rabbi Lieberman, but you can't call him on John, but if you would ask him, he would say, okay, take off your finger. Take off your finger. We would have said take off your finger because, anyways, you're doing a Maisa now with kumasei of continuing the current, and removing it is just, I guess, like shevel taisa, right? But he says another reason. He says, what do you mean? According to the Chazon Ish, even the Chazon Ish is going to agree that here you might have the head of Kisakelu. So that anyways, this might not be boina. So what's the worst thing it could be is a moilid. Is there any opposite malacha of moilid? No. What do you do if Chalila, you accidentally press the doorbell on Shabbos? What do? So you quickly take your finger off and run away. Does everyone understand what I said? That's very important. That's very good. No? Well, you can't have everything. No. Everything else goes on its own and remains. In air conditioning, you don't have people that sit there the whole time and then hold down. No, but here's not that. Here the pshat is you're the one who's continuing the koyach, who's giving the koyach. The truth is, you remind me, just one moment, you remind me of another thing. To ask another question. We're going to learn a bit of Shem oil. It's a big sugi in oil. How do you let it take at the kaisel amol? I mean, the truth is, if it rains at the kaisel, so then take the Sefer Torah inside, right? But let's say, a person, I remember when it was, in Corona, there was a minion, and it was one time it started to drizzle. Anybody remember? It was like on Shabbos. Remember that? It started to drizzle. And it's only going to work if you daven at a certain time. But, and so I told them, go in. They were in the Merpesit across from me. Right? They were diehards. So they took a talis, and they were down like 3 talisim over there. And then it was drizzling. It wasn't. And the truth is, that's okay. They didn't listen to it. It wasn't my Sefer Torah. But they were sitting there holding the talis. So I was thinking, maybe I'll tell them that it's in Israel, it's oil. And that way I'll get them to go inside with the Sefer Torah. But they can't say a sheker in Torah. You're not even allowed to say it even for Koch Nefesh. The Gemara comment down on Tess is a whole story over there about these Gedolei Yisrael. The Chachamim asked them different questions, and they went and they told them the right answers. What things we hold the Gabi the Goyim and this and that, different questions, different answers. So afterward, the Am Shloim affected Kasha. Don't you realize it was very dangerous for Klal Yisrael if you answer this? It's something you have to give up your life for. So the Am Shloim says, yes, you're not allowed to say sheker in Torah. People think there's Gimel Chamuras. There's 4. The truth is, once you learn through Shas, it's like a lot of them. It's also, not embarrass people in public. Now Gezel, okay. Upon him, Satachlis Gered, you're not allowed to say a sheker and be Megal Torah Shloik Hilchasa, even if it's going to be a Pekuach Nefesh. So I have to tell them the emes. The emes is that you're allowed to hold an oil because oil bidei adam is not called an oil. Oil bidei adam is not. What's that? What's that explained in the Mepharshim, the Tila David? When I hold something up, So then this is not like an umbrella. Umbrella is not an oil b'di'ada because there it's in place. I'm not holding the oil. But here, I constantly hold it. That's the hippoch of a binyan. A binyan is something that stands on its own. So this is a question that Shlomo Zalman asked also in the Chasei Nish. He said, maybe, who says that's called a binyan? Who says for the binyan, you're enabling something to come through? They've never understood the question fully. You're harnessing a koyach, and you're enabling the koyach to go through, so then it goes on its own, right? But by a doorbell there, you can't call it a binyan bichlal. Because by a doorbell, this I saw once in Rabbi Tzina B'Shal, it's a similar spot. By a doorbell, I'm holding the koyach, I'm creating the electricity called rega v'rega. So that you can't, it's mufka from binyan. It's mufka from binyan. So if you accidentally press the doorbell, you run away very quickly. What? Let's first get the halachas first, because that's not, even though it sounds like, what do you mean? First you have to understand. Somehow, we understand everyone that there's a current that is going through, and the current is connecting itself. As far as I'm going to get so that, right? There is, I could explain it, but let's get through through this. Sorry? Come again? If it's what? What I'm asking? Yeah, if the malacha was makim patish. If the malacha is makim patish, then why would that svara play a role? So first of all, it could be makim patish, same idea. Maybe number one, the only time you can say something is makim patish is if it's makim patish is also a form of binyan. It's just a different malacha. It's also a form of a creation. How can you say something's created if I'm holding it called rega v'rega? It's not created. And number one, and number two, the other svara that we said that maybe it's kis and kalim also applies to makim patish. If you would have something that constantly is made to be open and closed, maybe we don't see a oneness, we don't see a creation of the chayra. Just one moment, everybody say sorry. Right? Okay, so Shlomo Zalman wasn't happy about any of this because he said it's roughly, it's kis and kalim, wasn't happy about any of this. Then there was another svara, the Chazon Ish says you're taking something and going from dead to alive or alive to dead. So Shlomo Zalman asks us, Zabam B'Kasha. First Shlomo Zalman, Adantif, why are you allowed a shecht? Why not a shecht? You're taking something that's going from alive to dead. Was? So buying it, so there should be a raya for Shlomo Zalman that binyan is one of the Meichel Nefesh Malachos. But we don't see that. Right? Seiser. We certainly don't find that Seiser is one of the Meichel Nefesh Malachos. Or Shlomo Zalman talks about this Gemara. The Gemara first. The Gemara says that you're allowed to kill lice on Shabbos. Okay, we today don't know which lice the Gemara was talking about. It's all shy. Which Gemara? The Gemara says that lice are not par of a ravel. Right? Sometimes you see some kids, it's not just par of a ravel, it's like Chinatown. But the Gemara says that it doesn't have the ability to par of a ravel. It doesn't have the ability. Right? So the shaila is that, wait a minute, you're allowed to kill. Okay, I don't know which lice you're allowed to kill, but there was a case in the Gemara that you can kill. How are you allowed to kill lice? You're taking something that's alive and going from dead. So there's no such halacha of taking something dead and alive and dead. There's no such halacha. So besides, same thing with electricity. You're taking a wire and you're giving it life. Where is this master? Okay. I don't know if those kashas are such a kasha. No. What? He said Seiser. He said it's Seiser. He said it would be Seiser. Okay. One last thing before we go into the practical. One last thing is that there's a fight within the Das of the Chazon Ish. This is not something which we have any clear Chazon Ish about. There's a fight amongst Talmidim of the Chazon Ish, and Shlomo Zalman is involved in this. And Shlomo Zalman says a statement like this. He says, even the Chazon Ish that answered, the Chazon Ish, and he writes that I heard from the Chazon Ish, meaning he understood from the Chazon Ish. I don't know if he heard it first, but he understood from the Chazon Ish. The only potential of electricity being usher is when you're creating a current. You're turning on a switch, turning off a switch, something like that. He says, but the mere placing of a wire in the wall. You take a wire, you place it in the wall. So the Chazon Ish said, Shlomo Zalman said, that avada, even according to me, is nothing. Okay, what's nafka mina? I mean, like we spoke, you have what can be the case? You have, let's say, okay, the old fridges, I don't know. No, it's not good. What would be the case? We spoke the other day, I had a case where the light was off in the fridge and I wanted to pull out the plug. But the hot plate goes off. The switch in the house goes off or something, and you know that what blew it is the hot plate. So you know that if the guy's going to come and turn back on the electricity in a case where there's a hat there, let's say these kids are scared or something like that. So you know it's going to blow it again. So you want to pull out the hot plate plug so that it doesn't blow it again. And the hot plate's off now. The hot plate's off. So the this, it's good. The Chazon Ish would hold. There's no din of taking in and out the plug. That's no eye book. So you'll do it with your ears, right? You do it with your wife's ears or whatever. That's then there's kefer. If it's a chayitz, yeah, it sounds right, right? What could be the shayla? They bring down. There's a sefer called the Das Chazon Ish. What is it? What's the sefer about? Who knows? Right? All the Das and Chazon Ish, all different things from the Chazon Ish. So he brings there from the Chazon Ish that the Chazon Ish, I don't know if he has even told him, that the Chazon Ish held that not only is creating electricity a problem, right, turning on and off the switch, but also the potential, creating the potential. Right now, when this switch is in, when this, plug is in, a current can go through. Without the plug being in, no current can go through. If you take it apart, you made it that a current can't go through. So that's also a binyan of sorts and a sicer of sorts. It's mardika chumra, see that. That itself is enabling a current to be able to go through. That's a whole new ballpark, right? That's a whole new problem. And what's that? That's also, why is that not roughly? Okay, roughly the karka. Okay, then we get involved in. Don't forget, sometimes you can have a zaytik shaylos like the battery in a what's it called? The battery in the hearing aid, right? It's not going to partition according to everybody, even Rosh Hashanah, because you take out a battery, it's like the shoelaces into a shoe. It's a whole new battery. This battery has never been there. Anytime, that's a makabit patish, right? You know, you have a shoelace. You take this shoelace and you make a new shoelace and put it into this shoe. This shoelace has never been meshudach with this shoe. That's makabit patish. That was some junior diets. You base it, Ramah. So who I did over here. You have a battery. You take a new battery and put it inside here again. Sorry, this is makabit patish. Just remember something. Now let's go tachlis. Let's go one by one. So it's like this. Right? Give me Nussi a minute. Let's see. All right. Yeah. So somebody told the story here, maybe that when there was that tragedy by Kallus, so somebody said a story. What was the story? Did you find out what it was? Or did you find out yet? Found out. Somebody said that one of the place gave a kula. It was already yontif, and the people never conveyed that they saw it on. They saw that the whole thing came down. So somebody gave a place gave a heter to call America and tell the parents that they're okay. Am I saying it right? No. But we weren't required what exactly was the heter. They shouted to try and figure out what was this heter exactly. Meaning, I did goy. He said, I think the list was if you get a goy, get a goy. If not, they can do it themselves. All right? Sorry? Okay, they're the same. The point was, what was the psak? It could be that they got a goy, and the goy did it by such. But he said that even if there wouldn't be a goy, he said it was mutter. Okay, so let's based on what we learned today, let's try and figure out what can be. You know, this is the most extreme situation we'll all agree in the world, right? That's under pikuach nefesh, and it's the necessity of knowledge that the children are okay for the next 2 days. Also, it's not like stop. It's a very long time. Well, okay, that would be Israeli to do it or whatever, but you get the point. That's a very, very, very big shatzat chak. You can't think of a bigger shatzat chak than this. Okay, so now we really have to convey what is electricity. Because what is the shaila of calling and all that? That's electricity. That's not fire. There's no fire going on. There's no fire going on. This is like once and for all. You have to decide. The hold of electricity is the rice, the drapanan. This is where you're going to see it. A comment would be drapanan. So we have what to talk about. Why? Because I imagine this place is cheshbon. I don't know who it was or what it was. But I imagine part of the cheshbon is that it's definitely considered maybe ben hashmasha still. Some of the story happened closest to 7 o'clock, and some of the psak came out after all the bedlit, probably closer to about 7:35 and 7:40. And the stomach of Rabbeinu Tam went all the way. I think this Friday night was like 8:50. Was Rabbeinu Tam? No, okay. For Zayvite with all the shilos of Rabbeinu Tam, and nobody was Makabel Shabbos there. Right? There was a lot going on. So nobody we didn't have a tzibra being Makabel Shabbos or whatever. So we know there's a heter of shlusim ben hashmashes. And what is ben hashmashes? So for Rabbeinu Tam is driving to the mikvah at 8:30. You know. So even if we don't, but at they fight, maybe we'll be able to follow on his ben hashmashes. And even if in a normal situation nobody would saimich on this, whatever. In Karlin, did they keep Rabbeinu Tam? It's not there. What? Not sure. Okay. But you get the point. That's what we could work with. If this psak went to somewhere like 8 o'clock or 8:15 or something like that, you know, and we could consider it ben hashmashes. So now, maybe in a Zashas at Chak, I can consider electricity. Der guy versteht sich. You could be makel even on Yontif. You'd be able to be makel because it's mamish. We could. Let me explain. Now that you learned the sugya, what is electricity? Electricity, Rosh Hashanah told us we're going to be machmir by us that we'll consider it deraisa. For us to do something, we'll consider it deraisa. Means for us to turn on electricity, we're going to consider it deraisa. But now every situation, which is, a leeway. For example, Amir La'akum. That's the easiest one, right? Amir La'akum. Learn after you learn the whole sukkah. So you see, it's very mistaber to consider klape the goy electricity to be a tzad that's drabanan. If we know this machlekes, certainly a machlekes, everyone agrees this tut tzad here. Everyone's going to agree to that. It's definitely tut tzad over here. So therefore, there's at least a tzad that's a drabanan. If it's a drabanan, we can saymich legabe amir la'akim, which is a shvus chal klape this, because it's shvus plays in the life. And we'll say it's a shvus to shvus, b'makim tzarech gadol, b'makim after, b'makim something else. So therefore, like before you begin, whenever you're dealing with air conditioning going off, and you want to know, can I get the guy to turn it on? It's Noira Hat and whatever. Okay, it's not Noira Hat, it's a story. Or if it's a Tzarech Rabbi, it's Noira Hat and it's a base medrash and base knesses and whatever. And we're not dealing with lights, because lights is a shaila of deraisa, like we spoke out before. But we're dealing with a shaila of let's say, an air conditioning. So now you have what to talk about. It's already shvus to shvus, makim, Tzarech Rabbi, Tzarech Gadol, whatever. That's how you would down the shaila. We learned in Amir Akum. It's a big pella, Sefer Orcha Shabbos. Mamish, he makes electricity into such a deraisa that he writes that Mamish, he considers electricity to be a deraisa to such an extent that a mere akim, it's like a regular deraisa. That's tamua. That's very tamua. It's very strange. Right? Can you say such a thing? It's about a tzad. And I'm not saying that we are machmir. Moshe told us to be machmir. We're machmir. What's nafkamina ben hashmoshes? Ben hashmoshes. So you want to know? We know there's a heter ben hashmoshes. A kamid warren makabel Shabbos. Ben hashmoshes is a heter. Tzibur wasn't Makam Shabbos. And it's considered Ben Hashmoshes. So Ben Hashmoshes is a heter to do shvusim b'makom tzarech gadol. Okay, so maybe as I write, this is like the gevul of our threshold, our level of tolerance. Maybe when you have a matziv, but that was givat zeh, that type of matziv, maybe we'll say mechadashit that whole electricity is drabanan. At least the gabe Ben Hashmoshes. At least the gabe mistamad is what we say mechad. You can tell them to do with the shina. Otherwise, they'll take with the shina. Where else would you have such a thing? Maybe by a chayla. Chayla she'esh was kind of nothing to discuss, right? But maybe a chayla she'esh by sakana. Chayla she'esh by sakana, there's certain rabbanon we let him do. No. So if you could do it with a shinoi, when there's a tzad, you could even do shinoi at devices. We learned all this already. I mean, we have a tzad from the grass from the Balatanya that you're allowed to do a shinoi on a deraisa for chayla she'esh by sakana. Child, baby has a terrible diaper rash. A baby's considered a chayla. You're allowed to take out the diaper cream with a shinoi. What's a good shinoi? Take it like with a spoon, right? You want to take it with your mouth? Yeah, okay. So Rabbi says you can take it with your chin, and you can use the chin also. I was thinking something a bit more normal than your the back of the okay. I think the chin of your mouth is quite more. Or a spoon, a plastic spoon. It doesn't have to be a spoon you're going to use afterward for flesh. So then you take a spoon and you wipe it. That's also called a shinoi. But what's that? What's that? You're doing the rice with a shinoi. What's that? The Graz says the rice with a shinoi for a chayla, even if it's chayla she'ein b'sakana. Okay, we don't usually, we are sparing with this. But if a zay fight, if somebody wants to do electricity with a shinoi for a makam of a chayla she'ein b'sakana, no. There's a no. Should I say why it's a no? Because Rav Moshe once said that there's no shinoi electricity. Because the Teitzah is the celebrate Teitzah. The Teitzah is the same thing. Okay. But no. You understand? No. There's a tzad that there's a tzad electricity is Rabbanan. No. You have what's going on here today. Right? So I don't know if I would have said differently than that place. I don't know. Shabbat Zaman's nusach is like to be machmir like the Chazon Ish. That's what he says in the tshuva. So again, by mir la'akim he probably wouldn't be machmir. Probably by chodesh and bezakana with a shini probably wouldn't be machmir. But no, but you see that. I said no. First of all, Chaim Moshe was the one that said it's not gemara. First of all, and second of all, he says not like that. He says you should be machmir on the Chazon Ish on the Rises. He would not tell his mother anymore to ever turn the hair gate and all that stuff. It's not true. And then when he went to the sukkah, he saw that the Chazon Ish is downstairs is not like his. He was chayzer. I don't know if that's a true statement. I don't know why he's saying that. I don't know why he's saying it. Grada, Shlomo Zalman Elaine agrees to the concept of giving life to something. He uses the concept when you want to take something and put it on a USB or on a disk or something like that. Yeah, what's it called? No, but what's it called? You burn it on. There's a new word now. No. What? No, copy is like, I know the word copy. It's like some fancy word like cyberspace or something. What? Kids, you get my point. When you take info and you put it onto a USB, or you put it onto a hard drive or things like that, so then that Rosh Hashanah said that might be making something that's not alive to alive, which is not so pashut because all USBs generally have some information already on them. Right? I don't think there's anything as an empty USB. Even to come on and say it's empty, you need some information. Right? But you can have something that's totally empty. When you plug it in, nothing comes on. I don't think so. No, I see all the Sfarim talk about this, that even the Rosh Hashanah is going to agree if you're putting information because it was now not alive and you made it alive. And it's not true. Everything's alive, I think. I don't know. That's okay. Wait, so I was thinking interesting Shaila. I might say, want to hear interesting Shaila? I was thinking like this. Let's say you want to be Machmir. What happened today? It's 51 minutes. Oh, and I also said like, anyways, we need 2 more minutes. The Olam should go weiter. Zayin, Ches, Tes. We finish the segment. Tomorrow we got to talk about plungers and toilets and all interesting things. But as Rabbi say, just something I was thinking, interesting thing. If you want to machmir on this chazanish, I don't know. You have to go to Bnei Brak and find out what they did. If you want to machmir on this chazanish, that you can't even create the potential for a current. What does it mean you can't create the potential for a current? You can't even put in a wire when it's off. Or you can't take a wire when it's off. Because that's been enabling that. Let's say you want to go like that. Like the Chazanish. If that's really the Das Chazanish, I don't know. Shlomo Zalman says it's not. But the Sefer called Das Chazanish says it is. He knows the Das of the Chazanish, I guess, right? So it comes out. So what they do on Shabbos, because, so you take in the olden days, the fridges today, they're riddled with showers. But let's say the olden days, you took out the light bulb in the fridge, and you opened the fridge, and you just, some people just took out the light bulb and left it like that for the whole week. To get into the headache, whatever, to remember, to forget, and why do you want to have to yell at your wife every Shabbos, and whatever? It's like on the fridge, there's a list of things that the wife has to do. It's like a billion things. And then there's like the husband's list, and it says, take out the light bulb from the fridge. And then the bottom of her list, it says, remind him to take out the light bulb from the fridge, So you take out the light bulb. So now you have kasha. I open the door. What happens when I open the door? What happened when I open the door? The light's out. What happened when I opened up the door? I enabled, it happens to be there's no electricity now because there's no light bulb there, right? But I enabled the current to go. When the door is closed, you want to be explaining electricity now. If you listen close, you'll understand. When the door is closed, can any light go on? Can any flow go? No. When I open up the door, if you believe in the Chazanish, that he would ask for even potential, so I created now potential. All I have to do now is put in, you buy that. What? You buy that? So either you'll say the Chazanish never held this way, or what? So what? You gave it the same exact thing. Rabbi said, when I plug into the wall, the switch isn't on. So I didn't turn on the switch yet. Right? So what? All I have to do is pick it up. All I have to do is what's the difference between picking up and putting in a light bulb? Exact same thing. What? Are you from LA? Thank you. What? I'm right. Thank you. Do you beat him up? I'm right. No, it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's because we missed this morning. That's why. It's the exact same thing. What? So what? Are you an anti-Semite? Right? Who cares if you have to bring it from the outside? Right? So you see what I have to deal with? You see all day. These are the people I have to deal with the whole day. They make me crazy. Right? No? No one? Akiva, no? No one? I don't know. I was thinking maybe even if the Chazanish, even if you'll hold that the Chazanish says potential is the problem, maybe this one's not. No? Why not? Why not? Because maybe here the Chazanish, whoever explains what I'm saying, I'll give him my car. No. Maybe here the Chazanish will agree it's Kisei Kalim. Even the Havanas are Chazanish. No. What's it called? You want to drive me? What? You got the car. What does that? Even the Chazanish agreed. He said, why wasn't it Kisei Kalim when we spoke before about a current? He said a current that goes the whole time, that's fine. There's a side koyach to be able to turn it on and off to save money, let's say, right? Save electricity, right? A fridge is meant to be open and closed the whole time. Right? A fridge is meant to be open and closed all the time. It's at the Zaytik Shimush of the fridge. If I care, the light is the Zaytik Shimush. The Hikar Shimush at the fridge. So maybe that would be called the Kisa Kalim. That for sure will be called the Kisa Kalim. Zichar made to be open and closed. Wow. No, I don't know if it's true. You can look maybe. That's a very good question you're asking. I don't think you're right. I think the shot is, and we're dining on the Kisa Kalim, so we have to look at the Chetz at large. I don't think it's just a great. I understand your question. I don't think it's so hush. What? Come again? No, let's say even if not, but even everyone will agree that's meant to be the doors open and closed, right? Yeah. But we didn't do anything today. I don't know what to say. We didn't finish. Oh my God, we didn't finish. The battery. The stomach club, the electric current. I don't know. We'll finish tomorrow. Rabbi, don't move a minute. 1 second. Goodness. This is unbelievable. No, we didn't manage nothing today. We only did the whole machlokes of the Chazon Ish, which was not much. All right. The one thing to think about. It's a scary shiloh, but you have to talk about it. What should I tell you? How are you allowed on Shabbos? We spoke about it already a little. How are you allowed to talk if you're about koirei and there's somebody with a hearing aid? You're not talking to him, and it's Mela and Misasik and all these stars. How you let talk straight to a person with a hearing? Straight to the person. What? So that goes into that shayla we spoke about by microphone. When Moshe said that you're causing the current to go up and to go down and to whatever, right? What? It's interesting. Rosh Shlomo Zalman had it sad that even the Chazon Ish would agree to me, the Shlomo Zalman. Even the Chazon Ish would agree to me that you're not creating now a new current. You're not being born a new current. It's there. It's alive. It's the same idea. I'm just showing you. Within our sugi here, Rabbi Lieberman says, wait a minute. Till now we thought, okay, that's a fight between the Shlomo Zalman and the Chazon Ish. Shlomo Zalman held Noilad, so therefore it's not Noilad, right? And the Chazon Ish held Boina, we didn't understand. Now we understand it. Maybe even the Chazon Ish should agree. Because you're not being Boina, a new circuit. It's nothing is changing besides the electricity. What? You know, everybody said, an electrician, not an electrician, he's also an electrician. The fellow who came to fix my fridge and to put it into Mishmeres HaShabbos, I was asking him a few questions. I asked him, tell me, what's the story with this whole fan business that they talk about not being allowed to oscillate the fan? Right? I said, what's the shayla? I don't even know what the shayla be. The fan is klish machliyas. It's a goof of equipment. You're allowed to move it if you need it away from you, or whatever. So he said to me that they attached it over there by Mishmeres HaShabbos to stuff like, they attached it with like protons and croutons and all types of machines and everything, right? It looked like that guy with the, when they do the EKG and talking about, they rip off half your, right? So they attached this fan to all these things, and they were able to see all the currents. He said that he said that when they picked up the fan to oscillate, the current changed. Right? Who could fight that? If that's the case, he won't be able to do it, no? Right? So I asked him a question. I said, tell me something. When someone stands in front of the fan, does it also change the current? If you guys know even a little bit about physics, it has to be the same thing. You have to know a little bit, not a lot, right? But it will. So he told me he doesn't know. He's going to check it. And he never got back to me. The next guy that came to the house, I asked him this question, and he got back to me, and he said it changes a little bit less, but it changes also. So you can't stand in front of a fan either. Don't no more portable. You can't stand in front of the fan. So no. It could be that this is so. There could be things in halacha that we're not misyachis to. I don't know. We have to talk to my. I don't know. I have 2 more things to do, but we've got to go find it. No, the truth is we're done. It's mamish the first 2 minutes. I know you all want to know about like elevators, but mamish the oilam go weiter. I'm finishing the simon later tomorrow. And also, Rabbi say in Shin Lamed Vav, Sif where Tess, you have to see that Sif before tomorrow. That's about plungers and toilets and the snake. The snake, right? It's mamish fun. The snake, everything. Okay. What happened today? Huh? Wait. What happened here today? What was that? Did you see those guys? What was that? Micha, could you tell me, Chavrus is Sully? What are you guys bringing over here? Arabs, Schwarzes, the works, Chayas. You didn't see it the first time. There was a priest's picture and everything. You don't know what's going on over there. I'm telling you. They wanted to hear me, I hear. No, you came later. Arab priestess. No, there was I don't know what was going on over here. I think Srilly and Micha, you got to get rid of them. I don't know. Erwin, all these guys. Danny, I don't know who Danny's bringing. I don't know who Shopsy's bringing. I don't know what's going on over here. What's going on? What are you doing over there in Muncie and Lakewood? Who knows what these guys got going on over there? All right, I'm hanging. Danny, what was going on here today?
Black Lives Matter.
What's going on over here?
Pro-Palestine.
What?
It was a pro-Palestine. They probably got hold of the link somehow.
Pro-Palestine. I'm also pro-Palestine. I hold the Jewish Shiur. Thank you. Call to Dan. You guys on the should stay tuned. It could be we'll change the Zoom code or something. Okay.